This is the final word, World Cup Daily. It's day 18. It's India, it's New Zealand in Dharamshala. We're not in Dharamshala, we're in Chennai. Jeff Lemon and Carlos Brathwaite with me for Westfield, London. Thank you, Carlos, for joining the show.
Yeah, just a little disappointed I wasn't presented with a cap or anything for making my debut on the final word, but a pleasure.
The first thing I have to do is summarise the game in 30 seconds. India chose to chase because that's what they like to do. Asked New Zealand to back, got a couple of wickets, and then it didn't look like it was going so well when it was Mitchell and Ravindra putting on an absolute shitload of runs through the middle. They batted into the 34th over, and then a couple of wickets fell. India put the squeeze on at the end. 273 was a bit short of what New Zealand should have got. And then India chased it so easily because Kohli was there. He made 95, didn't quite get 100 after a big start from Rohit Sharma. They ran it down after 48 overs, but never looked like they were going to lose. My God, run chasers. Virat Kohli, what is the go? How is it that this guy is so much better at doing this than anybody else who's ever done this, basically?
Firstly, how do you speak in 1.5 so comfortably? Because that whole 30-second spiel feels like a WhatsApp voice note played at 1.5 speed.
You wait till I start getting the chipmunk voice. We get really up here, and we can knock the show over in 7 minutes.
Virat Kohli. It is at these points in time really look for this holy grail thing of something special that he does. And if you look back over Virat's career, one thing that you would attribute to him is consistency. And the reason he's consistent is because he does his simple things well, he reads the situation well, he plays the situation well. So when persons in those situations get overly emotional, or they start to think too much about personal gain and they think about the strike rate or the average or whatever, more often than not, you forget the ball that's coming down. What Virat Kohli is so good at is staying in the moment, reading the situation, and then playing accordingly. Now, you have to be good enough, have to be skillful enough and execute on a consistent basis to do such. But I think that is the hallmark of why he is as great as he is, especially in a chase.
The stats, I was looking this stuff up today. It's ridiculous. In winning run chases alone, he's made 5,955 runs. Like, that is not even a career. That's beyond a career for most players.
I was trying to think, like, in tate ball cricket, hopping ball cricket in the backyard. If I got 5,000 runs, that's a shitload of runs.
So average now is up to 90.4 in winning run chases. So MSD is really the only player with anything like a career of similar length, even though he didn't play as many games as Kohli did or as many winning run chases. 2,300s in winning run chases alone, and now 2550s because he didn't quite get the ton today. But he did still nudge his average up from, it was 90.33, now it's 90.4 when he wins in a run chase. It's like that is his favourite way of playing any form of cricket, I think, is the second innings of a 50-over game. That's where he's the perfect player.
Yeah, I agree, because I think when you look at how Kohli plays, firstly, if he comes in to bat in the power play, there's only two men out. Classical cricket shots, the first thing you think about is a Kohli cover drive. That comes out. And then once the field is spread, think of this. Let me just stick a pin in this. Think of this. Kohli hardly sweeps, hardly reverse sweeps. No fancy dinks, nothing. He's just.
When's the last time he scooped?
I think he got to 80-something the other night and tried something funny. Like, it is 1 in a million. Like, he's so proficient at every shot in the book that he does not need, and this is not a slight on anyone that plays those shots, it's just saying he's so proficient at every other shot. Can use his feet, can run back in the crease, can play offside, can play leg side, can play spin, can play pace. So he knows he has all the tools. He reads the situation and then is like, okay, in the middle overs, I just need a boundary probably every other over. The fact that I'm still in, people know that it's trouble and there's going to be carnage if I keep going. And he just keeps rolling and he keeps rolling. So it's difficult to say as a pacer or a spinner, if we bowl X, we will get Kohli out for sure. There are no glaring deficiencies in his game. So he is always in control. He's always at peace knowing his game is well suited to any situation.
And he had that, it seems even weirder to think about it, that he had that patch of nearly 3 years, 1,021 days across formats where he didn't make 100 for India. Since he broke that, he's made, 1 in T20s, 5 in ODIs, 2 in Test matches, in basically less than a year since that ended. So he's been back amongst it as much as he could ever be. If we have a look at the New Zealand innings, so Mohammad Shami comes back. That's important, will be important later. He ends up with 5. Devon Conway flicks Siraj to square leg for a duck. They've got Hardik Pandya injured, so they've had to rejig the side. They bring in Surya Kumar Yadav, who doesn't bowl. So then they need 4 proper frontline bowlers. So Shardul Thakur comes out, Shami comes in. They're only batting to 7 with Jadeja there as well. And it's Shami who comes on in the 9th over, I think it is, first ball of his spell on the comeback. Little bit of nip back, inside edge, Will Young onto the stumps, and he's into it with the first ball of his World Cup.
Yeah, Shami's sensational. I remember remarking on air that one thing you need in a long tournament is strength and depth. And India started this tournament with Shardul Thakur, who's performed in big games on the bench, Shami on the bench, Surya Kumar Yadav, who struggled in ODI cricket, but number 1 batting T20 cricket, on the bench. So they have full license, full scope to change team, be flexible enough from game to game, conditions to conditions. And when you get an injury to someone like Hardik Pandya, and it proves you need 2 people to basically replace him, Shami comes in, and it's as though it's the first game of the tournament. He's raring and ready to go. He's fresh, coming on board rockets. And I think one of the things that have been levelled at him in the past is his finishing. And I know we'll get to it, but how well did he and Bumrah finish the innings? And that could potentially be the reason why India won the game.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point and a massive turning point. The big partnership through the middle is Darryl Mitchell and Rachin Ravindra, 159 they put on in about 25 overs. So they were going at a bit over a run a ball through that period. I was super impressed with the tempo of how they played the spin, particularly through the middle with Jadeja and Kuldeep on. We've seen Kuldeep take a bunch of wickets through the middle of innings. You see Jadeja suffocate teams with the scoring. That didn't really happen. He didn't go for plenty, but they at least picked him off here and there. They hit occasional sixes, but particularly Mitchell was really good with his footwork in coming down the pitch once in a while to knock someone over the top, but didn't try to over-attack. He wasn't running up and down the pitch the whole time. Just managed the tempo so well where they kept the scoring going at a good enough rate without taking that one risk too many. And it felt like they managed it really, really well until Ravindra on 75 tries to bash one down the ground from one of the quicks rather than, it's Shami, isn't it? That's his second wicket, and finds long off, I think it was, in the end, where Shubman Gill comes in and takes the catch. So, but up until that point, they'd managed that attack and defence balance so well.
Yeah, they have, and it's all about having options as well. And if you can only hit straight, then everyone knows put them long on, long off, and then bowl a decent length, or you hit you out the ground. Or if you can only sweep, you go a little slower, try to change your pace, try to get that top edge. But when you have options to do both, he uses his feet really, really well, but he also uses the depth of the crease really well. So again, it's about having options. Sweeping, right hand, left hand combination helped. And I think the planning helped as well. You could see that, as you say, they aren't looking to take 20 off a particular bowler or a particular over. They're just looking to pick off. And once they get that boundary early in the over and rotate the strike, that's a runner ball, potentially 7s. And you have to give and take. At the highest level of ODI cricket, there's a World Cup, 2 unbeaten teams. The bowlers will bowl good balls. And I think throughout their partnership, what they did well was respect the good balls, even trying to rotate off the good balls, but really maximize the bad balls. Anything that was slightly off got punished. And I know India weren't the best in the field, and that would have helped contribute to as big a partnership as they had, but you still have to score the runs regardless of if the opposition put down chances.
And then India managed to turn the screws from that point. So Bumrah bowls a little bit through the late 30s of the overs and then comes back into the 40s, Shami as well towards the end. So when Ravindra gets out, 178 for 2, they've got 99 balls left. You're thinking they'll make maybe 320 from there, or that's what they'd be wanting to end up with. They end up with 273. So less than a run a ball through that period, less than a run a ball off the last 10, 54 off the last 10. And Bumrah and Siraj both finish up with 1 for 45. Shami finishes up with his 5 for, which includes 2 pinpoint Yorkers in succession at the end. He was on a hat trick at one point. And he gets Mitchell as his last wicket, caught in the deep. Mitchell trying to force the pace one time too many. Did hit 5 sixes, but going for his 6th 6 towards the end. They're all out off the last ball trying to run a by, and the stumps are thrown down. But all of that, even that bit of fielding at the end, showed how well India managed to suppress the scoring and make sure that it was a relatively comfortable chase, even though they lost a few wickets on the way.
Yeah, and I think that period won the game. The last 6 overs, they got 30 runs for 6 wickets. That's the game dead and buried. Less than a run a ball, and you've lost more than half of your team. And ideally, if you get that sort of platform, you're looking for someone to come in then and play a cameo. So you don't necessarily need someone else to score 50, 20 off 9, 23 off 10, that type of thing. Keep the run scoring going, especially from the other end, because now Darryl Mitchell, when that double wicket happened, he all of a sudden had to farm strike. So it means that you're not maximizing every delivery. Whereas if you had someone there striking at the other end, actually, if he smashes a ball and don't quite get it, go to field, a scramble one. Every single ball get maximized. And then when you get a 4 or 6, it pushes your score on even more. So I think New Zealand will look back at that and think we need to do a lot better. It seems as though a lot of their players, they can go big. They have gone big in history and their career showed, but they need time. So then you ask yourself, with that being said, if they're going to bat as well as they are now, is there space for someone like a Nisham? The Granholm and Nisham would have did it in 2019, where they'd come in and they might only average, I don't know the stats say, might only average 20, 25, whatever, but it's the strike rate, it's the impact that they make in those overs between 43 and 50. Can they afford to sacrifice probably Chapman? His name will probably come up. Can they sacrifice him for someone with a bit more impact? But today, I think that period of the game brought India right back into it, and when they could have pushed the game beyond India, they left it in the balance.
Yeah, I mean, Chapman is someone who can take down spin, and I think that's a reason that they like to have him there. For, we saw him do a little bit of it against Afghanistan late in the piece there. It was interesting, but Simon Doull on the commentary was criticising Darryl Mitchell, saying he slowed down too much approaching his 100. I'm not sure about that. He whacked a couple of boundaries off Bumrah, one off Kuldeep to take, and then takes a single, goes to 94. And from that point, he faced 9 balls, 6 singles, 3 dots, through a couple of really good overs from Bumrah in sort of the back end of from the 36th or 37th through to the 40th or 41st. Didn't seem unreasonable at that point. He was facing a very good bowler who is so good at taking wickets in the middle overs, and it's not like he was on the front foot just blocking everything out. He rotated strike pretty much every time he had an opportunity to do it, and then proceeded to continue to hit out. 130 off 127, I suppose, if you're being really harsh, you can look at that and say, well, he could have tried to push on more, but it wasn't that easy to come out and smash runs. It was hard to time on that pitch, and it seemed like it was keeping a bit low throughout as well.
Yeah, for me, my buzzword is always intent. If I can see intent, but you're not getting the runs that you'd want, and you're not operating at that straight rate that you would want, then I got to put it down to potentially good bowling, difficult pitch, you're just not at the races. But after you get 130, I can't really say you're not at the races. So then you look at the pitch, and I heard...
You're not at the races, you own several horses at that point.
I heard Rachin Ravindra in the half-time say it was actually quite difficult to bat the pace. It was a little bit more up and down where the bounce was concerned. So then it's a difficult pitch, and it was good bowling. So Dooley is normally on how you get to your 100 watch, but all the time I don't think it is trying to get 100. Sometimes you're coming up against good bowlers, and when you're coming into that phase of the innings, you always got to play both sides of the field. So is it worth taking a risk against Bumrah in X over, or can I respect him, get 4 singles, 5 singles, 6 singles off the over, knowing that the longer I bat, the more chance I have to make up, to get those 4 sixes, 5 sixes in the back end, which they end up not getting today. But as a matter of principle, if that is your style, take it deep, and you want to respect the best bowler. If he bowls a bad ball, you put it away. But if he bowls good and he pitches a little difficult, you prefer to take a risk off someone else than him.
So the Indian chase is pretty much an Indian chase we've seen plenty of times before. Rowett makes 46 off 40. The only surprise is that he got out without sort of making at least 70 or 80. He was just that sort of silken brutalisation that he does. He makes it look so easy. He eventually chops on Ferguson, bit of extra pace back onto the stumps. Shubman Gill slashes one down to deep third, but that just brings Kohli more into the equation. Puts on 52 with Shreyas Iyer, 54 with KL Rahul, and there's a little bit of extra pressure. Surya Kumayadov is run out. I'm not sure. People will probably argue about whose fault it was, but he clips the ball away. It's sort of looks like it's going to get through it's short cover, isn't it? Who sort of dives across. Kohli's waiting to see if short cover's actually stopped it. SKY just runs, and then the fielder does come up with the ball and throw. And by that time, SKY's most of the way down, and Kohli hasn't moved because he's like, well, no, you wait to see if it goes past the fielder first. So had Kohli run immediately, he probably would have made it, but it was also not a run that he was comfortable starting off with. So I don't know whose fault that is in the end. But they're five down.
Whose call was it?
Yeah, I don't know that there was a call. I reckon Surya Kumar just ran and Kohli had his hand up the whole time, and I think he was yelling, but by that point it was too late. So, they end up 5 down. They've got Jadeja out there with Kohli, and it's like, well, if you get one more here, it's the same with South Africa the other night when Marco Janssen's out there. You're like, all they need to do is get one more, and suddenly there's a weakness, but nobody's really exposed that weakness yet, except for the Netherlands against South Africa.
Yeah, and it's so easy to say one more, but can you get it? That is the question. And I think if you're on the field, you probably want to give Kohli a single and ball at the other end, but then that brings Kohli into the game because you're not actually attacking him either. And if you're slightly off, he'll still smash it for 4. So it plays really nicely into his hand if someone else dovetails with him really nicely at the other end. And Ravindra, Jadeja will go down in my lifetime for sure as one of the most underrated cricketers ever. With bat, with ball in the field, comes up trump whenever India or whichever franchise, CSK, whatever franchise needs him, he comes up trumps. But he's not, I guess, as marketable and as globally acclaimed as Kohli and Rohit Sharma, and they've done it for a longer time at a bigger scale. But those are the sort of characters that you need in your dressing room. And I think when you look at India, I try to think of a weakness. Probably only injury, to be honest. You got to hope that all the players stay fit. But when you look at getting out Sky and then Jadeja comes in, Mohamed Shami's done it with the bat as well in the past. So, yeah, it's a tough thing to look past them. You got Kohli in form, Roy in form, Kishan on the bench got a score. So, yeah. This is going to be a long, long World Cup for the opposition.
All right, let's get to the final word, Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame where we picked the most final word moments of the day, the things we enjoyed. It's brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. All I'm going to say is that you can go ice skating at the moment in London. Have you ever been ice skating before?
No.
Okay.
And I'll watch, I'll hold the bags and the valuables, and I'll cheer from afar.
Apparently it's not as hard. I've never done it either, but apparently it's not as difficult as you think. You can get in the beginner's lane and do the slow one. But they have set up an ice rink because, it's winter over there. It's not here. It's sweaty and hot and everything in Chennai. And I think we'd rather be here than be where it's getting cold. I don't know. I mean...
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Google Westfield and ice skating. You'll figure it out from there. How to get tickets. More extra, less ordinary. Now you've got to come back to the Kohli can he get 100 thing. We saw this against Bangladesh when they needed 24 and he needed 24 and it wasn't quite as extreme tonight, but he'd managed to work it to a point where they needed 7 to win and he was on 93 not out. And he dinks away into the leg side and gets a couple, and then he turns down a single again with Jadeja at the other end with I think 3 balls left in the over. Where I thought at that point, maybe just take the one, and then even if Jadeja gets 1, you can still get your 100 because you can finish it with a boundary. So on 95, he tries to pump Matt Henry out of the ground, doesn't get all of it, gets caught on the fence. He's trying to catch Tendulkar. Tendulkar's 49 one-day hundreds. Kohli's on 48, so he would have matched Tendulkar if that hit had gone about 5 metres longer tonight. Some people got really mad during the Bangladesh game the other night. Oh, it's disrespectful and so on. I didn't really care about that one. I thought they had so much margin. This one I was a bit like, you got 15 balls to spare and 5 runs to win and a couple of balls left in the over. So if you get out here and say Shami comes in and gets out first ball, and then you've got a bowler on a roll, maybe he finishes off with a hat trick or something. Well, suddenly you've at least introduced a bit of tension and a bit of nerves into the game. I thought maybe just keep ticking them over and take what comes along and see if you've got the chance to get one with the winning hit at the end rather than try to set it up quite that early. But it would have been the winning hit if it had cleared the rope. I don't know. What do you think? If you're sitting on the bench watching someone in your team try to nudge and manipulate their way to 100, what's your response?
I won't lie, I've done it already.
Yeah.
I've done it already for someone. Got a couple very hittable deliveries and just get a single so they could get a chance to get 100. But
you've done it at the other end.
Yeah, I don't score that much hundreds, Jeff. Like, I've done it already. I don't score that much hundreds, but I have been at the non-strikers end or been in the partnership with someone approaching 100. I think it depends on the situation. You don't want to be doing that in a World Cup final for sure. Today it probably came a little too close, as you said, and the situation of the game, two top teams, you don't want to let New Zealand back in. I mean, as a West Indian, we have so much scars from collapses. Like, it comes to the forefront of your mind. I'll never forget driving home being driven home from school, and Charles Langer we needed 1 run to win, 2 runs to win, and he got a hat trick. Boom, game lost by 1 run. So those sort of things always creep into your mind as a West Indian. We're known for collapses.
World Cup semi-final in '96 with Shane Warne.
But I don't think it creeps into the mind of an Indian because they're so proficient with batting hand that they just guess, well, Kohli will bring it home. And I guess Kohli felt he could have cleared it. You're batting, you're sweating, adrenaline flowing. Did I agree on this occasion? Maybe not. I completely understood against Bangladesh.
10 overs to spare at that point.
Yeah, it was a lot more, a different scenario. Bangladesh struggling to get into the competition, whereas this is top of the table.
One of the things people said was, it'll hurt your net run rate not taking singles, but they probably improved their net run rate because he was refusing a single and hitting a 4 or a 6.
But I don't get a net run rate. I think this World Cup has been overshadowed by net run rate, if I be honest. Everybody talks about net run rate. You get through by points. Yes,
so and if you finish top 2, who cares about net run rate?
Correct. No one cares about your net run rate at that point. So my thing is, let's get points. And if we get into a situation where we got the points in the bag and we can push, do that. Yeah. But if we need an extra 2 balls for my player to get 100, why not? Net run rate only comes in for England, Australia now, because these teams have not had good starts and they're trying to creep into number 3 and number 4 spot. So I think net run rate argument where India is concerned is overrated. Yeah. And I think today it was probably a little too close, but I completely understand against Bangladesh, and I completely understood KL Rahul, however unsuccessful he was.
Yeah, I mean, accidentally hitting a 6 and being mad about it is one of the great accidents that you could ever see. And I think as well, there's an intangible benefit to players in your team making hundreds and feeling great about themselves and having that confidence, and your squad feels better and all the rest of it. So there is that as well. The fog delay, never seen a game stopped for fog before, but that wandered in. The umpires took them off for about 20 minutes because no one could see anything up in Dharamshala in the mountains.
But I think what was funny is the commentators on air as well. Everybody was like, whoa, what happens next? Is it the same thing as a rain delay? Is it not where fluid? It was hilarious. And I was just saying, I'm like, this is so funny hearing y'all be confused, but I'm confused as well.
And the bit I enjoyed particularly, Katie Martin has done some great work during this World Cup. Not quite sure about this line. She said she was talking about how players maintain their intensity. She said, "Some days you're flat. How do you get your peak arousal levels?" I was like, How did you get your peak arousal levels while you were playing? I imagine usually didn't come up, so to speak. That wasn't intentional.
That was so good. Oh, God.
Rarely does a game of cricket make me feel that way.
There have been a few occasions.
There's been a few.
Yeah, there's been a few. 2016, Kolkata. Yeah, there's been a few peak arousal moments. But I'm not sure it's something that you aim for each and every day.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the Final Word World Cup Daily. Thanks to Carlos Brathwaite for joining the ranks of Final Word co-hosts. We'll be back with you for day 19 tomorrow. That's how daily shows work. Jeff Lemon, Carlos Brathwaite in Chennai, signing out. We'll see you later.